So another Patreon Q&A. Thank you again, Patreon, so much for your support and for the questions. Also today we have many questions. I want to start with the Discord challenge. If you are a Patreon, come join us on Discord. There's a monthly challenge with giveaways, with prizes that you can win. Last month we had writing something in 170 BPM. This month we have a sound design challenge, sound designing sitar sounds. So again, come join us on Discord. If you are not a Patreon, come join us on Patreon. It's really fun, lots of extra stuff, patches, videos, patching ideas, all sorts of different things, and the Discord channel as well with challenges and giveaways. Right, so this month we had 12 submissions. Amazing. Thank you so much for everything. It sounds great. So we have 12. I'm going to choose at random, of course, as always. This is not a competition. I'm choosing a winner randomly. So here I have the burst generator that will generate a burst of triggers that will drive the sequencer randomly. It's set to 12 steps. Right, so 12 submissions. Each step is a submission. It will end randomly on a step, and we will see who is the winner. Let's see, Chuck. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Number 8. Number 8 is Proggy Bog, or Proggy Pug, or Bog. You're the winner. Great. I will contact you as soon as I finish recording this video. All right, cool. So this was the challenge. Again, Patreons, thank you so much for your support. Come join us on Discord. Come join us on Patreon. All right, and let's start with the first question. What, Neil Sanche. Hi, Neil. What are your favorite modules? I guess it's VCV, maybe also hardware. Which are the most fun? Which are the most surprising? So I don't have favorite modules. There are too many modules to choose from. And also I think the fact that everything is modular, you cannot take just one module. I mean, you can in some cases, but right, modules have to work together, so it's a collection. So I don't really have favorite modules. I try to switch also a lot, especially in VCV. I have 1,250 modules installed. It's hard to choose favorites from there. I can show you these are the most used. Maybe I will zoom out a bit. Right, it's set here to the most used. So those are the most used modules I used in VCV. I'm not so sure how it's working because, for example, there is Plato here. Plato, which I use a lot, but I never add it to a patch because it's always there by default as a template. So I'm not so sure how this works, but those are the most my most used modules. As you can see, the VCA is the first and the scope is the second. So I'm using them quite a lot. Also the audio module, I'm not so sure what it's doing here because I never add it. It's always there. So I'm not so sure how this is working, but you can see there is Chronoblob, for example, Tangents that I'm using a lot, Rampage I love. What else? Many modules, Max Slicer, Noise Plethora. So Noise Plethora, by the way, this is probably the most surprising module lately that I got. I never thought that I will fall in love with noise so much. I actually got it also in hardware because of this, because of the VCV version. In hardware, the filters are also analog, so it sounds also a bit different. And it's really surprising, and I'm really surprised of myself that I enjoy noise so much. So those are the most used modules. You can see there's some Instruo, lots of Volt. Right, you can see I'm using the Sec3 quite a lot, even though it's so-called basic. I really like it. If we go down a bit, right, Squonk I use a lot. I don't know why Squonk is not really up. Right, but you can see more or less the modules that I use more frequently. And again, the most surprising, I guess, is Noise Plethora. The most fun module, again, I'm not so sure what to say because modules, they have to work together somehow. I don't know, maybe in hardware I can say Morphogen because this was my first module and I'm still in love with it, and it's fun. But yeah, I think my favorite, most fun, best or something like this, I don't think it's really, I don't know. I don't think it's really existing something like this. You know, there is no best module. I don't have a favorite module because they have to work together, and there are other, depends what you want to do, and so on and so forth. But noise plethora for sure is the surprising one that surprised me the most, I guess, lately. All right, Neil, thank you for this. Brent Gibson, I know you did a microcosm compare. This was the last Q&A I did, the comparison between supercell and microcosm. Do you think you can build one? So a microcosm with VCV-Rack modules. And then Troy added, plus one, please. Also, if you could work out a simple controller setup for this, which gives you a simple interface to change the settings like the real deal, that would be cool. So I'm not so sure what to say because, and I have the microcosm here again next to me. I hope you can, yes, you can see this. It's unplugged at the moment because, so it has many algorithms, right? That you can switch between. And each one of them is doing more or less something different. So there are no modules in VCV-Rack, individual modules that can do the separate things Microcosm can do, and then by combining them you get like the full function. Right, there are no really individual modules for this. So I think the best will be to just use supercell for all of the different algorithms. I mean, there is delay here, there's delay on supercell, there's granular on supercell, pitch shifting, time stretching, even glitch. So supercell in the right-click menu, I don't know if you know this, has also different modes, different algorithms, right? There is granular, pitch shifting, there is a delay, there is even a resonator, and bit repeat is quite interesting because it will basically glitch out incoming audio that you can also use, and it's quite similar to Microcosm. Now, Microcosm, of course, is also a looper, right? But I think having simpliciter, so the combination of simpliciter and supercell, I think you can get really, really interesting results, really similar also to Microcosm. Again, you can loop with simpliciter, you can pitch it down, you can reverse it, you can pitch it up, of course. You can slice it also if you want, right, and create sorts of micro loops, just like Microcosm. And with supercell, you have also all of the different algorithms. You have a reverb, you have granular, you have also pitch shifting and time stretching. You can freeze the buffer, right, and create all sorts of different granular and glitchy effects, right? So again, I don't think, also supercell has also a filter, Microcosm has also a filter, supercell has a filter in a few algorithms. So I don't really think you can build Microcosm from individual modules because there are no modules that will do just this one thing, right? There is supercell, there is clouds in hardware, there is microcell and supercell also, right? But they all do more or less many things depending on how you set them, right? And a controller for this, or not controller, but controls also, it's not really needed because everything is right there. Especially on supercell, there are big knobs, there is CV inputs for everything. If you want to connect a Midi controller, right, then you can connect it to almost everything and just have a Midi controller for all of the controls if you want hands-on control. If not, with the mouse, it's really easy. Look, the knobs are pretty big. You can just change everything. I'm not so sure you can switch the algorithms or the modes here externally. I think you have to right-click and change them, unless there is something from Stürmeln or something. I'm not so sure. But I don't think you can change this on the hardware. Of course, there is no right-click. On the hardware, you have to long press time, and then you can change the modes. In VCV, it doesn't work like this. But again, I think the combination of simpliciter and supercell together, right? You just send simpliciter right into supercell just like this, and you can record, you can loop. You don't have to record and loop also, you can just leave it as it is. You can pitch shift, you can time stretch, you can granulize and do everything. You can overdub also, of course. I'm still recovering and I will have to cough a lot in this video. I'm sorry in advance. Right, so yeah, and that's it basically. There is also even built-in modulation on Supercell. So I think just 2 modules and you are set, seriously, and you can have as many as you want. As many instances as you want, of course. Yeah, so this is it. I think it's the best solution for having Microcosm inside of VCVREC. All right, thank you, Brent and Troy. THD, in the Q&A previously you done a ski mask style patch example. Could you do the same or something similar to this for other artists if reference tracks are shared with you? Sorry, I'm new to this. No worries, man. Haven't contributed. No worries. THD, thank you for your question. I think you sent me also a link to something. So in the last Q&A, we had a question about Ski Mask, which is an artist, is a musician, and how to approach or how to create a patch similar to his music. So first of all, I think it's a really good way of learning. I also try to do this from time to time, listening to something that is not connected to at all to what I do, to my music, to the music I compose, and try to take elements from there and see more or less, try and recreate them and learn from this and take this to my music. For example, this is something I enjoy doing. I wish I would do this more. But in general, yes. I mean, I think, to be honest, I think I'm not so good at it. I don't think it's my strength to listen to something and to recreate it. I don't think I did a good job with Ski Mask. And there is also another question later about also the neuro bass. So to be honest, again, I don't think I'm so good at this. But still, I think nevertheless, it's great. It's a great way to learn patterns, to learn sound design, to learn all sorts of different patching ideas and techniques, and take them to your own realm, musical realm, I guess. So yes, I try to do this. If you send me, you sent me a link, I will listen to it. I see if I can come up with something. Yeah, it's a great way for learning. I am doing this last time. We had 2, actually. There was one Eurobase and one with Ski Mask. Yeah, sure. Let's give it a try. I will listen to what you sent me and I will try to recreate something. I really recommend that you can also try, not you, just you. Let me see, I forgot the name. THT, not just THT, all of you out there. I really recommend to try and recreate stuff. You will never get the same. I'm sure you also don't want to get the same, because at the end of the day, you will want to sound like yourselves and not like someone else, right? But you will always learn something. This I can guarantee. You will always learn a new trick, a new tip, a new technique, a new way of programming stuff, a new way of thinking about sequences. For example, all of a sudden you say, oh, wait a minute, why is this a 12-step sequence and not 16? This is interesting. Maybe next time I sit down and build a patch, I will use a 12-step sequence and not a 16 or 8-step sequence, right? So you can learn a lot and you can just develop yourselves. Yeah, so this is something I try doing as often as I can, but of course there is no time always for everything. Yeah. All right, just a second. Sorry. All right. Thank you, THT. Gary Burns. Hi, Omri. Hi. I was a big fan of Studio 6+1's module LALA in VCV V1, you and me both, and would love to hear what you recommend as a substitute for this module in V2. All right. So I have something ready here. LALA. Where is it? It's here. All right. So first of all, LALA. Let me show you LALA. So this is LALA from Studio 6+1. It's not available anymore in VCV2. Unfortunately, the whole collection is not available. But this module, basically, it had an input, right? You have an input that you can send your audio into it, and then you had 2 outputs, high and low. Maybe it should have been called above and below, but never mind, it says high and low. And from the high output, you will get everything, more or less everything, above the cutoff point of this frequency control. It's basically a filter. And from the low, you will get everything below this cutoff point, right? So depending where this cutoff point is, it can be low frequencies, it can be not so low frequencies. This is why I think maybe above and below is better, but never mind. So basically we have a filter with two outputs, high and low. Maybe it's high pass and low pass, right? And you can process then sounds. You can split the frequencies and process sounds separately. I used it a lot to send high frequencies into a delay or something like this. So here I have a few examples, right? I have here this sequence here, right? Sec 3 through fate on the geodesics. If you don't know fate, it's basically, it will add sorts of random notes here and there in this case, right? And two FM operators as my voice. Right, now the first thing you can do is just use the VCV, VCF. It's more or less the same. You have cutoff control from where the frequencies will split, and you have a low pass, right? A low output, and you have a high output. Everything below and everything above. It's not everything, it depends on the slope of the filter, but you know what I mean. So above, right, and below the frequency control. So it's more or less like LALA. I use this a lot. Right, whenever I want to send, for example, if I send, here I have the original sound, and now I want to send, just like I did with LALA in VCV1, just the high frequencies or the higher frequencies, in this case more or less above 600 Hertz, right, to a delay. So here I have a delay, right? So if I solo this, right? So you can use just the VCV, VCF for this. You have low pass, you have high pass. I can send also the low frequencies or the lower frequencies to some sorts of saturation or distortion. Right? So I can process the lows and the highs separately. Right, so this is one solution, a really easy solution, just the VCV, VCF, which will work more or less the same. Another idea I have for you is using a filter bank. If you want to take this a bit more to a new level, I guess, you can use a filter bank. Basically, you have here an input and an output, right? And the sound will go through this filter bank. You have here low pass, you have here high pass, and you have 4 band pass filters. And you have individual outputs for each of them, right? So if, for example, I want to, for example, process just the higher frequencies, this is here around 1400. I want to send only them to a delay, right? I have here the output. In the right-click menu, I can choose to exclude the outputs I take from the master or from the mix, right? So if I take now this frequency out of here, it will not come out of the output, so I can send it now to a delay, right? And of course you can change here the frequencies, you can control the level, you can modulate the frequency, right? But now it's just this band is going to the delay. Right, so you have more frequencies to choose from. It's not just high and low, but you have all sorts of different things. Again, also here, I can choose, right, just what is this, around 175 to send to a saturation. Right, so together it's this and all together. Right, so you can really process the sounds like this in all sorts of ways. I have another solution for you if you want to take this even further, and this is a commercial module. This one is from Unfiltered Audio. If you know Unfiltered Audio, they have amazing VSTs, and they make also modules for VCV. So there is Yoko and Sander in one collection, and all the other modules in the separate collection. So there are 2 commercial collections. Yoko, basically, what I have here is a frequency sort of splitter, right? You have an input and you have an output, and you have high, mids, and lows in this case. And there is also Sander, which will split according to level, to volume, basically, right? To gain, which is also quite interesting. But let's concentrate on Yoko, right? So you have an input. Maybe I will take this here next to our voice, right? You have an input, you have an output. Sorry again, I'm sorry. right? And now you have here send and returns. So you don't have to send it to a new channel. It all can work here. And you can also solo different bands, right? So if I solo just the upper band, and I can change it, right? I can say I want this to start here, and the mid band will be in between those two, and the low band will be lower, right? The lower frequencies, and you can solo them, right? You can also modulate, right? You have sorts of VCAs here. You can also modulate the levels, and you have again send and return, right? So now just this is going to the delay, this is not, right? And you can change the slope of the filter, so how harsh it will cut the frequencies, right? So this is even a nicer, right? And it's stereo, of course, so it's even a nicer solution if you really want to dig deeper and create all sorts of crazy sound design ideas, feedback loops and whatnot. Again, this is a commercial collection where you get Yoko and Sander. But if you are into this, I think it's really worth it. And if you want just a simple solution, the VCV, VCF will be all that you need. I'm sure there are other filters also that have multiple outputs, so low and high, right? So I hope this was helpful. Cheers, Gary. Rui de Silva, hi. Do you happen to know when Southpole modules will be available for V2? So no, unfortunately, I don't know. I did some research on the forums and on Facebook. There are some releases. There is one I found for Mac, one different one I found from Windows that individual people, just developers, just made this. But I'm not so sure it still works with this version of VCV because VCV got updated a few times lately. So I'm not so sure it is available, and I'm not so sure it will be available. That said, let me know if it's in the comments for the video on Patreon or on Discord. Let me know what modules you miss from this collection. Maybe there is an alternative, and there are so many other modules. Maybe there is an alternative that you can use, because I don't think they will hit the library anytime soon. Maybe in the future someone will release an update or something. Again, I found a few files, but I'm not so sure they are working. I didn't want to install them to create any sorts of issues with my VCV. So I'm sorry, but I don't think it will be available. If any of you is watching this and knows, maybe in the future, you know that there's a version of Southpole, please let us know. We will be really grateful. All right, the next question, Stefan Apollo, hi. And would you like to talk about your approach, strategy, mindset, and explain how you designed the Neurobase and Ski Mask patch from the previous Q&A video? I find them very cool and accurate, so thank you. Thank you very much. I think it was not so amazing, but as I mentioned also in the video, in the Q&A video last time, I didn't have so much time to work on it. But yeah, okay, so again, just for those of you who didn't watch last Q&A video, I did a sort of, I showed a sort of a patch where I designed a Neurobase voice or Neurobase sound, and also a sort of a patch inspired by Ski Mask. Now, how I approached them. So two different things. One was purely sound design, the Neurobase, and one was more of a patch with patching techniques and ideas and stuff like this, right? So when I approached something for sound design, in both cases I had to do a lot of research because I didn't know what Neurobase is and I didn't know Ski Mask, right? So I need to listen to music with Neurobase or from Ski Mask. I needed to watch videos if there were about Neurobase. There are many. So I watched a couple just to get an idea of what's going on there. And Ski Mask, I listened to his music, and also I saw one interview with him where he explains more or less what he's using and stuff like this, which was first of all interesting, but also it helped me a bit to make more different decisions about the patch. And then I went with sound design, always, never mind if it's a big patch or if it's just one voice. I think in sound design, I try to take it step by step. So after I have an idea of what's going on and where I want to go with this, so first of all, I start with registers, right? The notes. So for example, this is an Euro bass. So I will not play a bass voice in the high registers. It will be low. It's simple stuff, but you have to think about it. And then I think about the envelope, the amplitude envelope of the sound. Does it have a quick attack, a slow attack? Does it sustain? It's not sustaining. Does it change? Maybe it's not changing, right? So I think when you start with sound design, I think the amplitude envelope is the first thing you have to, or the second thing you have to think about after where actually the sound exists frequency-wise. If it's a bass, if it's a lead, if it's hi-hats, so if it's high or if it's low, if it's a kick drum or stuff like this. And then a lot of trial and error. In Eurobass, I did a lot of trial and error. Again, I don't think the result I got was so good. I think it could have been much, much better. I didn't have so much time to work on it. Maybe if you have more time, take it and develop it a bit more. But yeah, that was more or less the approach with the Eurobass. With Ski Mask, I kind of went back and forth. So what I do when we spoke about it before also about recreating music or sounds or stuff like this from other people. What I try to do is, again, first of all, if it's a big patch, if it's music, I try to separate the elements to different groups, first of all. So what is the most stable, less stable, and really random? And I start always with the most stable, the thing that catches me the most, which is the most stable, the most repetitive thing that I can just leave looping in the background while I work also on other stuff. So in this case, it was the kick and the snare I think I started with. And because it was just playing a pattern, it changed a bit, but right, it was just playing a pattern that I could easily create, first of all, the sequence itself. So first of all, working on the sequence and then working on sound design. So first of all, how it will play and then how it will sound like. Right? And again, always listening back and forth. You have to listen a lot. I don't listen to the whole thing. I take a sort of a loop and I listen to it only over and over again. And I try to extract the different elements and concentrate only on them. So first of all, concentrate on the most stable thing, which was the kick and the snare. First of all, working on the sequence itself, so how they play, and then working on the sound design, how they sound like, right? If in the Ski Mask, everything was so subtle, everything was so minimal, right? But many layers, many different sounds, many different noises. So really trying and recreating one element at a time, and trying to think what techniques, what approaches will take me there. For example, there's a lot of glitch there with the Ski Mask, so I used a lot of this trick with the delay, with the freezing delay that I do with Chronoblob, right? So these are more or less the approaches. First of all, when it comes to a bigger patch or to music, first of all, dividing the elements, starting from the most stable. That will not be the easiest, but it will be the easiest to concentrate on because it's not changing so much. Right, and then of course, if there are melodic voices, try and think what notes more or less, registers, if there's a bass voice, or right, all sorts of different noises, where they're coming from. And yes, and that's it more or less, and a lot of trial and error. Again, I don't think this is my strength to recreate stuff. I enjoy it and I learn a lot from it, but I don't think it's something that I do so well. But still, there's always something to learn. I learned a lot while doing this, using distortion when it came to newer bass, all sorts of glitchy stuff, all sorts of sound design ideas, like designing the snare. The snare was really minimal. The kick was really minimal. Really interesting stuff. So this is more or less it, I guess. I hope this was somewhat helpful. All right, Specky Dowing, hi. Hi Omri, I'm a big fan of 60s psychedelia and have been trying to recreate bongos and the sound of a closing hi-hat frequently used by the Beatles. I've had moderate success with the percussive vibration and ADDR sequencer for the bongos and an open hi-hat through a low-pass gate for the other, and would really appreciate any ideas you have. So I went and I did some research. I couldn't find really anything. I know I'm going to regret saying this, but I never really listened to the Beatles. I'm sorry. So I'm not really sure what sounds you are referring to. Please send me examples if you can. I would love to try and listen to what's going on there. But I did create a couple of things that I can show you. Maybe I'm not so sure this is what you're looking for, but maybe it will give you an idea how to start. And again, please send me if you have like a specific sound and you have an example of it. Send it to me. I would love to hear it and see what happens. So for creating bongos, let's start with bongos. I have here this. Right, for creating bongos, I like using pinging filters. Basically, you send a trigger or a short burst of something into a filter which is almost self-oscillating, and then you get this sound which is quite fun. So if I send a trigger to, let's say, the bandpass input, right, let's send this to the mixer. Right, I have here a one-shot sequence with a count modular. Right, just triggers basically through the filter. But then if I take the resonance up, right, you get this sound. And then you can start tuning it to the register of a bongo. Right, again, I'm pretty sure it's not what you're looking for, but it's still interesting. Maybe you will use it as well. Right, and every time you design drums, any type of drum, when you hit it, the pitch of the drum will go up because the skin is being stretched. And when the skin is being stretched, the pitch goes up. So it's always useful to use an envelope, right? I have here an attack decay envelope, which will go to the cutoff CV input, which is basically the frequency of the filter. And let's see what happens here. Let's set it to run for a second all the time, right? This is quite fun, and of course, as always, you can add also velocity. So if I send this through a VCA, right, I have here a sort of a sequence set. Right, and then the resonance will also control the decay of the sound, right? So if I have it going to the CV input, something like this, right? Again, I'm pretty sure this is not what you are looking for, because it has nothing to do with the Beatles, I guess. But this is one way you can create bongos that I really like, basically using a ping filter with some envelope modulation and velocity. Right, you can create really interesting sequences like this. Right, so this is the bongo. Again, self-oscillating filter. For the hi-hat, you want a closed hi-hat. So basically, I guess when you step on the pedal of the hi-hat and it closes, right? So here again, I have the sequencer. In this case, I will use tremor because I like tremor. Right, for now, it's also playing the kick drum. I need a bit more levels here, just a second. Right, for now the kick drum, it's playing basically a kick drum. So if you take the oscillator down, you are left just with the noise. Right, and now when you think about it, right, this is exactly what I speak about sound design. You start with the envelope, right, with the amplitude envelope. So how the sound is reacting, this is sustain, not sustain. When you think about it, when you step on the pedal, on the hi-hat pedal, there is some, it's not directly closed, right? It sounds like a whoosh, like a whoop, whoop, right? Like it has some attack to it, right? So if I take the hold and decay down and I add some attack, right? right? It sounds a bit like this, and then you change the tone here to be a bit hi-hat, more like a hi-hat, right? And you can add some decimation, which is a sample rate reduction, just a bit, to get this metallic sound, right? And of course, if you want something realistic, you will have to modulate everything, attack, decay, decimation, tone, randomly always modulate stuff, so it will sound a bit more organic. But this sounds like someone who's, right, hitting the pedal of the hi-hat. Right, so maybe this, again, maybe this is not what you are looking for, but those are just a couple of ideas. Send me examples of stuff that you heard and you want to recreate, and I will try to help you out with this. Yes, okay. Thank you. I hope it's Pecky. Darwin, thank you so much. Fik, hi, hey Omri. I was wondering if you would like to discuss the textures we can hear in this song. It's really beautiful how it constantly moves and hisses. Man, this track is amazing. Thank you for sharing it with me. I fell in love with it directly, and I already have the whole album on my wish list on Bandcamp. I will put the link, and I have tears in my eyes because it's so beautiful. I will put a link. I will put this link in the description also for those of you who are watching and want to listen to this beautiful, beautiful track. And I try to recreate something, and another recreation. It sounds nothing like it, but the ideas are somewhat there, I guess. Okay, so first of all, I have here everything, right? Let's send this to the mixer. This will be, I don't know if you want other selections as well, but this selection, this preset here, I will put also on Patreon so you can download it and use it or have a closer look. Okay, so first of all, I'm pretty sure actually that he's using a field recording of rain. So he put somewhere his recorder, stereo recorder, because it sounds really wide, and he recorded rain. So this is, I think, the main. I don't think it's his or something. I think it's just the recorded rain, and this is the background for all of the music. So what I did here, I used the gritty output of noise plethora for those clicks. This sounds like this, right? This is the rain falling on something. And then for the actual rain, I used also white noise, and I sent it to two different bandpass filters with lots of modulation. Now there is also a lot of movement there in levels. Everything is like it's breathing. It's really organic. I think he's using some sort of field recording with an envelope follower to change everything. Maybe it was wind, maybe waves. Imagine, you can take waves and they will control the levels. So really experiment with field recordings. I think he used it a lot there. But here I just took white noise, filtered white noise through two bandpass filters, modulated differently, panned left and right. Right? Modulation on cutoff and also on levels through the drive. And this is basically the background for everything. Again, it sounds huge on his track, and I'm certain, I'm 99.9% sure that it's a field recording of rain. So if you can get a field recording of rain, go for it. What is the next one? Okay, the next voice, I think it's a sort of a drone chord that he has there. Again, lots of movement in levels. You see I'm modulating the level, and also of frequency, right, of the cutoff. And I'm mixing here chords from Platz and Basil as a sort of a drone bass. Lots of movement, especially with everything is breathing, really interesting. Again, if you can record or download, or I don't know, like waves from the sea, or wind, or something like this that is always moving, and use this with an envelope follower to control the levels of everything. It can be really interesting. Of course, this is going through a nice wet reverb. Okay, the next sound I believe is this sequence. There is in the background this random sequence. So it sounds a bit like a bass, sounds a bit not like a bass. I have the percussive vibration that I used as the voice, and sample and hold for generating notes and also for modulating the decay. But what I'm doing here, so this sample and hold from Count Modular has also CV input for the offset. Right, so every now and then, according to the probability coming from the Bernoulli gate here, right, the offset will open a bit more and it will sort of transpose the notes higher. So just like in the track, sometimes it's bass notes, but sometimes it goes up. Really interesting. And it's really low, it's really in the background. Right, and then all of a sudden there are high notes. Another voice that I have here, okay, so another voice he has, it's a sort of a kick, but it's not a kick. I'm sure it's another recording of something. It has this thump to it, like it's dirty, like it's something dirty, and it's in stereo also. So if I solo this for a second, right, it has a rhythm to it, which again I'm using here the gate sequencer, again tremor, I really like tremor. Right, there is no bend, so it doesn't act like a drum, it doesn't have this pitch envelope like I spoke about before, that the pitch goes up. It doesn't have this, it's more subtle, it's much more subtle, but there is noise to it, it sounds dirty, so I'm using a lot of decimation here, a lot of sample rate reduction. Another trick I like doing with all the tremors is using the external input for feedback. So I'm just sending the output back into the external input, right? And this is going to a very, if I take the delay down, to a very short delay, that is the left is a bit different than the right, so you get this stereo spread. This is without, right? It's dead center. And now with. Now it's spread. Right, and it's again really, really subtle. It sounds huge there in the recording. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but another voice that comes in afterwards is a sort of a pulsating noise, like someone is breathing. Right, so I'm just using, again, noise with some amplitude modulation and filtering. Right? Really nice. So I think the whole magic of this track is the rain, because it gives this organic, alive hiss everywhere, and those droplets are also nice in stereo. I think that's the real magic. And then there's a drone, a chord, and some notes coming in, really in the background, a bit low, a bit high, and there's this rhythm of the kick, this dirty kick. So yes, really experiment with field recordings. It can be really, really beautiful. You can get really interesting results. Also with envelope followers, using them to bring in voices and stuff like this. Already I feel much more relaxed. So again, I will put this selection, this preset, this patch, I will put on Patreon. And, what have I done here? And link to the track, to this song, in the description if you're interested. Thank you, Fik. Thank you. All right, Oscar, hi. Yeah. Do you have any tips for generative techniques with the Keystep Pro? Yes, I do. And actually, I hope to have a video all about it soon. But I have here the Keystep Pro. Right, this is the Keystep Pro. It's not connected for now. I have a tip for you before we get to the generative stuff. If you're using the Keystep Pro, the Keystep, the Beatstep Pro, or any other MIDI controller that has CV outputs, if you're using it with hardware, and it has CV outputs in the back, you should get yourselves one of these here, right? Basically, it connects to the CV input, right, in the back, and then you have the outputs from up here. I hope you can see this. Right, you get them from up and not from the back. So first of all, you don't have to look for them, and also you can put a controller really close to the hardware, right? If it's a synthesizer, if it's eurorack. So this is the first tip. But yes, generative tips with the Keystep Pro. I hope to make a video about it soon. I already started gathering ideas. I will mention two things that you can try. So, right, you have 4 tracks. Use one track as the most, it's heavy. One track as the more stable track, right? A stable sequence, more or less. Of course, there is probability, there is everything that you can add. And mix it, I don't know if you do this in VCV or in hardware, but mix it with another track that is more or less random. It can run randomly. It can have probability. Just a second, I have to blow my nose. I'm sorry I'm not editing all of this out, but this is real life for you. And again, I'm still recovering from whatever, and things are getting better. Anyway, yes, and mix it with a second track, right? You take one pitch and you take stable pitch, you take more or less random pitch that also happens not so frequently, so with lots of probability, and you mix them, which means that every now and then the original sequence will be transposed up, will be transposed down randomly in a generative way. You don't know what you will get, and every time you hit play, it's different, right? So you just mix 2 tracks. Again, one more stable, one more generative, and you get a really interesting result. And another tip I have for you, there is the drum, the green one, right? The drum, there is a truck outside here. The drum gates, right? The outputs, the CV, or if you want to use this in Midi, right? There are drum tracks that you can use. What I do with this usually, I don't use it for drums. I use it to randomly trigger samples or one-shot sequences, right? So you can set, for example, a 64-step length of a sequence, but have only one step program with probability, which means that only every now and then, according to this probability of this one step inside of 64 steps, only then you will get a one-shot sequence, or you will get some sort of a sample all of a sudden playing, right? And you can have many of these in hardware. You can have up to 8, right? You have 8 outputs. I think in software you can have 16 even, if you do this in a VCV rack, right? So you can have also 2 steps or 3 steps, depending how much or often you want this voice to play. And even if you make this run also randomly, imagine you have 1 out of 64 chance that this step will play if it has 100% probability. If not, it's even less chance. It has even less chance, which is even better for generative if you want something that will run for a few hours and will always be different. Right? So those are 2 tips. Again, I hope to make a video soon, and we will see how it goes. The next question, Golden Pyramid. Hi, a basic mixing question. How to make bass and lead sit well together in a mix? Any tips, or is it just by feel? So no, it's not just by feel, I guess. And I have 2 tips for you. I cannot show you them because I'm recording now with Reaper. But, so 3 tips. First of all, there are live streams on Patreon I did. I'm doing live streams on Patreon, by the way, if you are interested. There are a few where I mixed my recordings, my music. There are like 3 or 4 mixing sessions that you can, that I'm live mixing for you patrons, my music. So first of all, go watch this. I do this a lot there with the flute, where I record my flute. I treat it like a sort of a lead sound, and I want to make space for it. Sometimes it clashes with the bass, sometimes it clashes with other things, right? So first of all, go and watch them, because there are a lot of different interesting tips there, I guess, that can help you with mixing and stuff. I hope, I don't know. Okay, the first real tip I have for you is, and I know I say it, I repeat this all the time, but mixing session starts already in the compositional process. When you compose, when you write the piece, already there you are mixing. And why do I say this? Because people sometimes forget that pitch is frequency and frequency is pitch. If you have your bass and you have your lead playing the same notes, there is no other way, there is no chance for them not to clash. Right? If they play physically the same notes, because note is frequency, if one is playing C4 and another one is playing C4, they will clash, right? So first of all, in the compositional process, if you have a bass that is playing something, try not to play the same or some of the same notes with your lead, right? Sometimes a bass can also play higher notes, not just lower notes, and sometimes a lead can play also lower notes and not just higher notes. So already when you write your music, already when you write your music, think about the actual notes, because notes is frequency, right? Pitch is frequency and frequency is pitch, right? So you have to think about this first of all. When you are already working on your music, make sure to have a physical separation between the voices. Now, another tip I have for you, and again, I'm sorry I cannot show you this, but go watch the live streams. I do this there a lot, or often, I guess, is multi-band compression or multi-band EQ with sidechain compression. What I mean by that? Usually, for example, if you think about a kick and a bass, right? Usually what you will do, you will sidechain the amplitude, you will sidechain the level, the volume of the bass to the kick drum. Whenever the kick drum plays, the bass, the level, the overall level of the bass will go down, right? This is basically the basic example of sidechaining. But if you have a multi-band compressor, you can choose only different bands, frequencies that will react to this kick drum, right? Let's speak about kick drum and bass. Sorry, right? Only certain, or so many noises I'm making today. I'm coughing, I'm blowing my nose here, there, what's going on? Anyway, so you can choose certain frequencies, certain bands, only them to sidechain and not the whole volume. So not all of the bass will disappear, only certain frequencies. And what I like doing is, for example, when I have a flute, and let's say a flute and a bass, sometimes there are clashes because there are frequencies everywhere, right? So I take this bass, I put a multi-band EQ or multi-band compressor on it. I'm using the one from Isotope. There are many out there that you can use. There are also things you can do for free. Right, so I look for it. I look on the Isotope one. I can see also how the frequencies react to one another. I can send the flute to the equalizer of the bass and see where they clash. Again, I do this in the live stream. Go watch it. How they clash, and then I can say only when the flute plays and only on those certain frequencies, the level of only those frequencies will go down and will give space for the flute. So the flute is less clashing with other voices, right? For example, this is a lead, the flute, and a bass, right? So again, you send the flute to sidechain only certain frequencies. This is a really powerful tool. I use it all the time. I much prefer this than the normal side chaining that just takes the level all the time down. This will just affect certain bands, certain frequencies. So the bass will still be there, but only those clashing frequencies will give space to the flute, and only when the flute plays. So you don't cut those frequencies all the time. This is more dynamic, right? It's just when the flute plays, then the frequencies will go down. So again, first of all, go watch the live streams. There is a whole playlist on Patreon of the live streams, so you can look just for them. Second of all, when you compose the music, make sure to give space frequency-wise, note-wise, so they are not going on top of each other. Of course, levels, mixing is all about levels, but this has to do with each track is different, but also this multi-band compression, multi-band EQ, dynamic EQ, to have your lead sound duck some of the frequencies of the bass to give space for the lead only when it plays and also only on those frequencies. I hope this was helpful. Again, go watch the live streams. It might help you, I don't know, maybe. Chris, dear Omri, I think this is the last question. All right, we have already an hour, more or less. Okay, Chris, hi Chris. Dear Omri, thank you for another Q&A. Cheers, man. I love to use MIDI patterns and I'm wondering what are the best standalone modules beside using Ableton Live's piano roll. Currently, I am busy with entry and sequencers, but I wonder if there are other MIDI modules or good MIDI VST plugins. Okay, so first of all, if you have the entry and in VCV, entry and if you have the timeline, for example, there is nothing else you need. Seriously, I mean, this is all what you need. If you are not familiar with timeline, with the entry and collection, right? Is this the free one? Oh, this is the free one. Let me see the timeline. This is the free. Let me load this one here, right? So you click it, you have different tracks. This is basically a sort of a DAW inside VCV. Then you can click, you can choose. You want a melody, you want a MIDI melody, you want a drum, you want a MIDI drum, you want CV. Right, if you click melody, you can go and you can enter. Really, you can just enter like a piano roll with probability. It's just a mind-blowing sequencer. Seriously, it's just amazing. If you want something like this, go for it in VCV. You have it apparently because you're already playing with it. Chris, you are playing with it already. So I don't think there is anything else you need, but. I'm not really into this world, I guess, of VSTs and MIDI and stuff like this. But I recently realized that Reason is also a VST now, and you can get separate instruments and sequencers from Reason, which are quite mind-blowing as a VST. So here, for example, there's the pattern mutator that will apparently add lots of interest to your patterns. So you can use something like this. And again, it's a VST. You can use it also inside of VCV Rack, I guess. And another one is the bass, how is it called? The baseline generator, right? Which is also quite interesting. Getting quick results for basslines, and it doesn't have to be just basslines, right? So those two, I think, can be really interesting. Again, Reason can also be a VST, so you can load the different instruments of Reason as a VST, right? And I think you should check it out because it looks quite interesting. And of course, again, entry and. I don't think you need any more than this. Okay, that was the last question. Let me just check again. Yes, this was the last question. Thank you again for joining. Thank you again for watching. Thank you again for being Patreons. You're awesome. Thank you again for your questions. If you're on Patreon, come join us on Discord. If you're not a Patreon, come join us on Patreon. It's fun. And thank you for watching. I'm sorry again for all the different noises I made today. And another one. But this is real life for you. Cheers.